Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is the Piracy Show, and, well, we're heading back to SPK, or at least CIG would like for us to be going back to SPK. It's an interesting idea. The idea being, of course, that, currently you go into SPK, you have to spend all this time standing here hacking down your crime stat. Why does that essentially exist in the game? Well, the reason being is they want to take their idea of a PvP event is to take a player, in this case a pirate or a criminal, whatever designation you want to use, however you identify, and they basically want to tie you to a stake in the ground, and then they want to advertise that you're here committing a crime so that all the law enforcement players can come and more or less have an automatic advantage over you. There's a number of problems that I have with this in kind of the way that it's designed, because if you think about it, if you're a solo player, you don't want to touch this, because their idea being that, you go into the station, you have to kill a few guards, then you kill the supervisors, their supervisor drops a pad, the pad has a code, the code opens the vault slowly feeds items up to you. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, and you load them into your ship and you take those goods away and you can sell them. But of course that also sends out an alert to any law enforcement or bounty hunters in the system that, hey, there's a person here and they're doing a crime, so come and get them. The whole time you're walking around with packages in your hand, so you're basically going through gates, going through doors, airlocks, with a package in your hand instead of a gun. Your ship is parked outside of the station, and so you're basically just a sitting duck. You are literally tied to a stake. And while they do show kind of like a single player doing this, this would probably play out better as a group activity. However, the problem with that being is that, once again, you're being paid not as a mission completion where you can share the mission, but you're being paid in terms of physical goods that you still have to get out to a place and sell, which means that the mission could entirely be all for naught if the goods don't make it to the location, or if one of the players decides to keep the goods, or things aren't distributed fairly, blah, 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 blah. In other words, it has a giant red sticker over it that says avoid. Now, I think that given the mechanics that are in the game, there are probably different ways that we could approach this. Different things that we could look at. There could also be a way to force, the NPCs to evacuate SPK and then force it to start dumping cargo out into space, where players in the back of a spaceship could use tractor beams to basically pull goods in and load them into their ship. And you have a certain amount of time before the alert goes out that says, oh my God, the station's dumping goods into space, and all the mercenaries show up. So you have a certain amount of time to load as much into your ship as you can and then make a quick getaway. That would be kind of cool. But unfortunately, because of the mechanics of Star Citizen, getting out of the pilot seat, getting out of your ship, going into the station, doing the thing, getting the code, getting the goods, and then walking the goods handful by handful, single shot, one at a time, out and back to your ship, doesn't sound like a barrel of monkeys to me. Doesn't sound like a good time, and the risk that you're exposing yourself to is very, very real. So, if you're a criminal in Star Citizen, this mission should already be throwing up tons of red flags in your mind. And part of being a criminal in Star Citizen is getting away with the crimes you commit. It's not making yourself into cannon fodder for bounty hunters or making the job easy for them. And generally, this is kind of the biggest problem with a lot of these events that CIG brings out, Jumptown 2.0 and whatnot, is where they kind of create these events and they try to force players into collision with one another. Now, the intent behind that is good. And what the intent is like, yes, players go, we're getting to do PvP, whatever. But CIG gets all kinds of data from this. They get to see where the bottlenecks are, where there are problems, how they can make improvements, where they can find the issues that they're running into to make the game run more smoothly. And this is one of the things that unfortunately isn't really in the front of a lot of players' minds, and it really should be at the absolute forefront. It should be immediately behind your eyeballs when you're thinking about Star Citizen, which is how reliable are these systems going to be? How reliable is the basic game engine going to be? Because remember, you are not playing in a universe that is like World of Tanks or World of Warcraft or Fortnite or PUBG or anything like that. It's not just, oh, arena match, I lived. Oh, arena match, I died. No big deal. Reset. Go again. Star Citizen is a game where your character can die, where you can actually physically lose goods. It's not like you go, you kill one boss in a dungeon, you get loot, the next boss kills you, you don't lose all the loot. In Star Citizen, you do. You lose everything. And so that makes the game a lot more dangerous. And while this is good from a testing point of view, it's not great from a gameplay point of view. I understand the intention behind it. I understand why CIG is doing it and what they're going after, and I fully support that goal because we need a reliable game. So we gotta kind of force players into collision with one another, especially in large mass groups. That's why you have Xenothreat. That's why you have Ninetales Takeover and Crusader, the invasion of Orison. All these things, you're constantly trying to push players together. My problem with this comes from the fact that because the developers are forced to kind of develop these events working entirely off the shelf, which is very much, no new mechanics, nothing that really isn't already in the game that you can't work with because, they're what little development stream that they can focus directly on Star Citizen rather than on Squadron 42, and then Star Citizen inherits it at a later date. What little development productivity or pipeline width that they get, however you want to designate it, they're very selective about these things because they want to have their big tentpole features for each new patch. And the problem is that ultimately there's so little throughput that they have available to them that in general, when they develop these events, they have to work off the shelf. You know what I mean? Like, they have to work off of the parts that are already in the game and reorganize them in different ways. Sadly, this has kind of created a situation where the developers are falling back on the same patterns again and again and again in terms of the content that they develop. And the current reality of Star Citizen is you die, you might lose the items that are on you. It's no big deal. It doesn't really matter. None of this really counts. The money you lose doesn't count because at some point the servers get reset and we all go back to broke or near broke, and then we have to build ourselves up again. The downside is that this is not always going to be the reality, right? In the future, we're going to have to be a lot more selective, a lot more careful, a lot more methodical about how we play the game. And developing the game in the way that it's currently being developed creates an almost expectation that this is going to be the way that things are going to work in the future. Perhaps amongst the developers, but also amongst a portion of the player base. And the truth of it is that it is going to be far different than what CIG is kind of developing content towards. And so it creates a false expectation that Star Citizen is going to be more or less this events-based universe where all these dynamic events are going off here, there, and everywhere, and all the players are coming into collision. The truth of it is when death counts and you can really lose, and lose bad, and when I hear CIG talking about these events and we want to do player-triggered events in the future, no, you don't. No, you don't. Like, events like this, if you're thinking about a persisting universe where your character can die and you can lose the items that are on you, These events are good for only for you saying, okay, everyone's going over here, so now I can go over the other way and do my thing, and chances of me getting caught are far less, right? Like, this footage of me in SPK, this isn't me, testing the new game feature and whatnot. This is me using SPK as a great looting hub to get a whole bunch of weapons and items for my ship and also run down crime stat. I put this footage in my video recently. And this is one of the places that I go instead of buying guns when my character gets reset. I go to places like this and I just loot as much weapons and equipment as I possibly can and build up huge stashes. That's why I'm doing this out of a cutlass and not something, faster or more nimble. Players, like, these events, while they might make for great trailers and great marquee events, and people go like, ooh, look at that, look at the action, oh, look, all the players are shooting at each other. In truth, by the time Star Citizen gets closer to live, these events are going to be avoided like the plague. And you realize that a lot of people who are participating in this sort of stuff are participating in it solely because it doesn't matter. It doesn't count against you. It doesn't hurt you to participate in these events. But in the future, it could hurt you catastrophically to participate in these events. And that's kind of where I think that CIG is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like the right hand and the left hand don't really understand what they're doing. They're both working towards opposite goals. Whereas the core development, the core idea, the ideology that kind of drives Star Citizen's development, the basic concept that they've based this entire game on, is going in a completely different direction to the direction that the developers are going in, which is, we want to create all these events and players are going to come there and they're just going to shoot their guns, there's going to be explosions everywhere, and it's going to be really theatrical, when the truth of it is that your life in Star Citizen is probably going to be much closer to the life of, let's say, a U-boat captain in World War II, which is long periods of trying to set things up and hunting and chasing, and these short windows of just stark nightmarish terror of, oh my God, there's so many ways that this can go wrong. We just gotta hope that we've set things up correctly and that we pull through and we win. But the truth of it is that if you're looking at Star Citizen and you're developing Star Citizen with the idea of, hey, we're gonna have all these dynamic events going around just like in this game or that game, not really, because this game and that game are games where death don't matter. And so these things don't really count, and you can just reset and go again. And so that's kind of where I get a little bit worried when I see CIG propping these things up. Anyways, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.